Good morning, Diecast folks, friends, family, Desinens, dorks, everybody. This is Slackazz Saturday. So what does that mean? I'm not going to open anything. I'm just going to either show you something that I already have or talk about something. So I started posting these videos on Facebook also. Yeah, I'm back on Facebook after 6 months. I'm going to keep my mouth shut this time. And a lot of the people who knew me on Facebook, like say 3 years ago, only know me as a record store guy and my main interest being music. They don't really understand this whole diecast thing. So I thought it would be fun today to explain it to them as people who know nothing about this collecting hobby. And it might be kind of funny for people who are very into it to hear the way I explain it. So first of all, the whole idea of it, I get asked a lot, or in the past year or two I've been asked, Hot Wheels, really? What the hell? And people who, when the record store actually transitioned to a toy store and then to strictly a diecast store. So people would come in there and they'd be like, what happened to the records? And really? Like adults buy toy cars? I'm like, yes, they really do. So the way I explain it to people who don't understand diecast collecting is take baseball cards, sports cards, anything that adults collect that was originally intended for children that now has become kind of an obsession for adults. So sports cards is a really good entry point because a lot of people collect those. And say action figures, the most popular these days being like the pop vinyl things, which are sort of half action figures, half Japanese toys, I guess. They're what's called super deformed. So take those two examples and diecast cars. They kind of represent, the reason that they're interesting is one, there's a certain amount come out every year, so there's a finite number. And they have a bit of a legacy, especially baseball cards, because they've been around since, the 20s? Maybe even earlier. I'm not really into it, so I don't know. And pop vinyl's been around for a while, too. I think the fact that they're so common is why pop vinyl is popular. But despite that, those two things and diecast cars have kind of a legacy, and they represent something in the real world that people admire or look up to. So like baseball cards, it's a cardboard card, but it represents a real person who plays games and has statistics and a life. So in a way, if you admire that player, you want the card. Same with pop vinyl. Let's say you're like really into a character from Walking Dead or Star Wars. You want that statuette, you want the action figure or the pop vinyl because you really like that character. Granted, some people collect this stuff just as an investment because it accrues in value, but that's not always the case. And in my experience, people collect stuff that they have like a passionate personal connection to. And Hot Wheels has been around for a long time, like since 1968. So theoretically, you could have people who are great grandparents who played with Hot Wheels when they were kids, who have passed it on through the generations. And yeah, I know kids these days are more interested in screens than they are toys, but when Ignition Diecast was a physical store, there were kids that came in there and they were just blown away by the selection of cars and they loved to play with the track. So kids still love toys. They just sometimes they have to be led to it to realize how cool they are. So that's the why. So let's get into some of the specifics. I personally have a thing for Hot Wheels and Matchbox, a little bit less so, because those are what I played with when I was a kid. I first got into diecast stuff when I was about 9 years old, 1979. And there are other grocery store brands. There's like Majorette, Maisto, Johnny Lightning, M2 Machines, Auto World. There are other brands besides Hot Wheels and Matchbox that you can find in like your average Walmart or Target. And then there are premium brands that start at like $12 to $14 and go up from there, which so there's Mini GT, Inno 64, Tarmac Works, Kaido House, sort of like they've taken it to another level where these are models and they're very artistically detailed, and they're not really meant for kids. In fact, a lot of those models would break in the hands of a 5-year-old, but people collect them still, and a lot of people keep them in the package. So let me stop there and I'll show you some specific stuff. So let's talk about Hot Wheels and Matchbox specifically, because that's primarily what I'm into. So Hot Wheels does a lot of cars each year. These are what you'd call mainlines or basics, and they do about 250 of these. Well, they literally do 250 castings, releases each year, but there's numerous colors. Some of them are only available at certain retailers. Some of them are special because they're treasure hunt or super treasure hunt versions, which resell on the secondary market for quite a bit because they're pretty rare. But for the most part, these are your basic Hot Wheels. And Matchbox has a similar product or line called Basics. They used to call it the 1 through 100, and this is from 2024, so this was still an edition of 100. See that number? But now they're up to 125. So these are the two cheap cars. They're around $1.25. But what makes them fun to collect is some are rarer than others, and some are super rare. So let me show you a super treasure hunt. I was only gonna show this on Monday. That's the muscle car, but this is considered a super treasure hunt because it has rubber wheels and it has this gold symbol. I don't know if you can see that underneath the car. There's a symbol on the car behind. So this, even though it costs $1.25 in the store, is going for about 50 bucks right now. So that's where the resellers and the scalpers come in. They really get wet between the legs about this kind of stuff. The next tier up is in the Hot Wheels world called Silver Label. So this is an example of that. These have a price point of about $3 to $4, and this is from a series called Neon Speeders, only available at Walmart, which I hate store exclusives, but that's where you get these. And the Matchbox world, here's one line that's about that price point, about $3 to $4, and this is called Moving Parts. It's basically the same as their regular cars, except there's at least one aspect about it that moves, and this has got an opening hood. So this is a moving part. So this is like mid-tier. These are the mid-tier cars. So the high level in the Hot Wheels world are what called premiums, and most of them are car culture. This is premium. And this one's not a car culture, I guess because it's a Fast and Furious, but the price point here is around $7 or so, 6 plus tax. So here is a Hot Wheels Premium. Comes on a more durable card, a more durable bubble, and a lot of times they have metal bases and what are called Real Riders, rubber wheels. In the Matchbox world, I don't have any package, but if you imagine this comes on a card, a blue and yellow card, this is a Matchbox Collector Series, and very similar to Hot Wheels Premium. They have metal base and rubber wheels, and the price point here is about $6 or $7 too. So those are premiums. And then there are what I call like the premium brands, like Inno 64, Kaido House, Mini GT. There's 3 or 4 more at least that I'm probably forgetting and people are going to be mortified by, but the only one that I'm really into is Mini GT, and I kind of got pulled into it because someone sent me the #1 car, a white Honda Civic, and I was like, these are pretty neat. So I started buying them. I try to limit it to Porsche and BMW, but they make a lot of different cars, and they're in the 700 or 800s now. So here's an example of a Mini GT. It's a very high quality car, has a metal base, rubber wheels. It's quality similar to a Hot Wheels Premium, but even higher than that. And it comes with a collector box, which is embossed, a little hologram. So it comes, I guess it comes similar to this. And here's the card that came on. So it'll come packaged similar to this. And that's a mini GT. This one costs 12 bucks, but they go as high as 16 to 18 for the basic cars, and then there's chases. And all these lines, there's ones that are intentionally like limited, and they're called chases. So a mini GT chase can cost you like 50, 60 bucks. Same with any Matchbox or Hot Wheels. So let me think about the next chapter. So some people only collect certain like cars, like they'll collect only Mustangs or Camaros within whatever brand make that they collect. Myself, I do a lot because of the store and just boredom, I guess. I collect certain makes like Porsche, all of them, certain models like the Chevy Corvette, as many as I can get my hands on, or specific castings like a Hot Wheels casting of a certain car that I try to get all of those. And so there's lots of different ways to collect this stuff. I'll show you briefly what my collection looks like. So here's like open air Porsches on premium shelving, and then here's some more that are just in these little Plano boxes, which I'll show you in a second. And then I keep some on these kind of open air shelves. More Plano boxes over there, more premium shelves there. And then I keep a lot, probably 2/3 of my collection in these boxes. So this is what's called a Plano box. It holds 24 cars. And I like these a lot because they are kind of like books. They're real easy to put on a bookshelf. But then there's this other style which holds more. They're actually less expensive. These are called Kislanes. So this is Hot Wheels muscle car box, and this one holds 24. Another cool thing about the Planos is you can pop the lids off and mount them on the wall. They have these little mounting brackets. They're not glamorous, but they do work. And if you're a diecast dork like me and you get like dozens or hundreds of cars in these boxes, it looks sort of neat. So I guess that wasn't really as extensive as I thought it was going to be. But I just kind of wanted to address that question since I'm putting these on Facebook now. And most of the people who know me on Facebook are like, what the hell is with this Hot Wheels thing? So it's not my main hobby, my main like life focus, but I do find it fun because I loved these things when I was a kid, and even when I was raising my own kids, I would look at the Hot Wheels that they got and be like, oh, cool, they've come a long way.